The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to Old Space Show. I'm Brandon, and this is my companion, Steven.
Hi.
This series of Old Space Show follows the intergalactic swashbuckling escape antics of Roche Blake and his ruffian crew in the first season of Blake's Siete. Today, we're discussing the 11th episode, Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
In this episode, President Sarkov is a prisoner of the Federation, and while Blake and Callie try to return him to his own planet, the Liberator runs into deadly trouble.
All right, drawing the name from the director hat this week is Pennant Roberts, and it's written by Terry Nation. Cast of this episode: Gareth Thomas, Sally Nivette, Paul Darrow, Jan Chappell, Michael Keating, David David Jackson, Peter Tuddenham, T.P. McKenna, Cynthia West, and Mark Zuber. This is one of those I always like with shows, sci-fi shows, or this Blake 7 tends to work. I have a good feeling when we start mid-mission for an episode.
That's what I was going to say. It starts out and they're there. And we have to find out what they're doing there as the episode goes along.
Yes.
And that is the perfect way. I mentioned that last week about how there's 3 ways to start Blake 7 episodes, I think we're finding, as we near the end of the first season. It's everything happens on board the Liberator, which doesn't always work. Outside of the first 2 episodes, we'll say. And then there's a way to sort of say, hey, things are happening on board the Liberator, but they're also happening somewhere else, be it Cygnus Alpha or something going on with Servalan and Travis. The third way to do it, which is how Seek, Locate, Destroy did, and how this one does, is boom, the episode starts and they've just landed on the planet. We don't have any faff on the Liberator about what they're doing there. We find out as the mission happens, and that is very exciting. And so instantly I was into this episode.
Especially when it's on film. I'm like, oh, they're getting serious.
Yes. I had to look it up at a place called Waterloo Tower. I looked at that place and thinking, this looks like a weird place. It looks like kind of like not like a sort of a folly of a castle.
Yes, yeah.
With a strange like steeple / tower out of the top of it. And I thought I was looking closely thinking, is there some crazy like model shot or something like that? No, it's an actual place called Waterloo Tower, which is in Kent in the UK. It looks exactly as you see it on screen. It is still the same in 2022 as it was in 1978 when they shot that. It was built in 1819, and they used it for this, I think, perfectly fitting given the amount of antique trinkets that Zarkov has. This feels like a very natural type of building for him to be housed in.
Yeah, that's right. Because things feel kind of odd a bit because we jump in with Callie running away from Federation troopers, and then Blake shows up. Of course, he's the one who got to carry the cooler this week when they go on their mission. He's got he's got the drinks. But this like old car drives by, and it's like, wait, what? It feels so off for this show because they've done a good job of not being very earthy with things, and then here comes this classic car, but it fits everything out. It'll explain itself.
I have yet to do this, and I should do it, or at least check for someone who has already done it. But in the second episode of Spearhead from Space, the Doctor yet, of course, before he gets his yellow roadster called Bessie.
Right.
In the next story, he drives around a bull road, shall we say, red old-timey roadster, which looks very much like the one that Zarkov has. And I don't know if it's actually the same car, and I want to do a side-by-side comparison at some point to see if there are any sort of matching features that would lead me to believe that.
Oof. Did BBC have just like a lot of cars to use for location shoots, maybe?
Or maybe they rented it out, or it was. I mean, it's an older car. Maybe in eight years in between uses, maybe it wouldn't have been around anymore by 1978. But I'm gonna check it.
Yeah, there would be collectors that lend stuff out to that, and it might be a guy that, I know, you want a classic car, this guy, and he just randomly handed out the same one or something, because sometimes there are, collectors that they will use to like outsource for like film and TV, where like, he's a guy, go to him. He's got a good lot of cars he collects, and let him use them for movies and stuff. But that is, I've got to, side by side, we need it. But yeah,
if I remember, I'll let you know.
There we go. Yeah, the mini castle, which this episode, for the first half before they get back to the Liberator, I got like prisoner vibes from a lot of it for some reason.
Interesting.
It's nothing like Prisoner. There's no. It's just maybe the costuming, the car, the little castle,
the anachronisms kind of like floating through. Like all of a sudden you're watching a Blake 7 episode and an antique roadster sort of drives through. Yeah,
yeah. It kind of felt like they walked into like something like that. And the guy before he starts talking, the ex-president, what was his name?
Zarkov.
Yeah. He looks like some guy that you'd be causing. He might be one of the guys causing problems. Number 2 or whatever on the Prisoner. He might be this week's number 2.
Slightly foppish.
Yeah,
the legendary T.P. McKenna, who I think I've actually only ever seen him in this and. In Doctor Who, he'll go on to be in The Greatest Show in the Galaxy playing Captain Cook. Perfect casting, 100% perfect casting for that type of character in Doctor Who, and in this too. And you can't help. There's a slight campness to him, which I really appreciate. And yeah, he's one of my favorite things of this whole episode. I don't think he's quite allowed to be unleashed as TP as I've seen him in Doctor Who, but you can sense it's there bubbling under the surface. Him just collecting all these old records and dead butterflies and everything else.
All while on a prison planet of sorts. Because I'm like, they talk about it, I'm like, this is he's in a castle. They let him collect things.
Definitely a minimum security, I think. Prison is what we're looking at here, with guards still like cycling around outside. Like he's still under guard, which is the amusing thing. Like he's driving around with Tice, who we later find out is his daughter, just tooting around the planet under house arrest, essentially.
Yeah, the nicest of the Federation guards. They even how is it? When they climb the wall and like Callie jumps on the one.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, go ahead, Ray." No, he didn't say that, but yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I like we talked about. They treat the audience like they're smarter. But we have to follow this, and it keeps filling in the gaps of the background as we go through and move forward. So you're learning about the mission, why they're there, what their plan is, who this guy was, what his importance is, without a Liberator scene talking about, well, what should we do this week? Well, there's this ex-president on this planet, and then he shows up with 19 minutes left.
No, not that we're still complaining about last week's episode or anything. No,
right. But yeah, so I like that vibe of assuming the audience is going to pick this up and be smart about it. There's also, they give the Liberator crew stuff to do that comes in later. It actually, normally this would be the filler. Like, well, we pay them for the episode. We need to have them do something.
Right.
But for once, the filler on the Liberator becomes the A plot in the second half of this thing, which is well written, in my opinion.
Yeah, they actually work together in tandem a little bit, and you think it's going to be sort of separate. It's another one of those. Okay, we'll beam you down now, and then be ready at this exact time, and we'll beam back up. And of course, what happens? The Liberator is called away, is out of orbit now, or in this case, has been taken over by space Arabs, because yes, last week we had 1970s sexism. Now we got 1970s casual racism with white guys wearing. They're sort of made up to look like your typical.
I put like it was like space Omar Sharif in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, but I don't think they're of Arab descent. So all right, well. That's what we do in 1979. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. But you could sort of tell. There hostage takings in the 1970s on airplanes were like a fairly common thing. So relative to nowadays,
right.
Of course. And I think it's just sort of like playing into that. There's a lot of Middle Eastern hostage takings on airplanes, and they thought, well, we can do it in space too. We'll just put a guy in a Galileo.
Space Arabs. That's a weird. I've never seen that done before, and it's here because usually you go to like. It's done a lot better in a lot of like. Usually it's incorporated into like desert planets and stuff, but in like a, I don't know, better way than this. Like, I think this is trying to add some sort of like sense of I don't know, royalty or wealth to the outfit.
That too, like sort of work. Like to make it look a little more cultural, shall we say? It's not just people wearing like outlandish space suits or something like that. It's like there's a larger ethnic, not really though, because it's just white guys dressed up in the universe. Different times these things were made in, and I appreciate that. But it's that's why I find watching old TV like this fascinating, because it comes from the era that it comes from, and things that we wouldn't necessarily do today. Although I mean, as recently as 10 or 12 years ago, there was a Prince of Persia movie that starred Jake Gyllenhaal, who at last check was not Arab. So it's not something that exactly is limited to the 1970s.
And the thing is, you can, in my opinion, you can do both. You can acknowledge, admit, and know that that's not right, it's wrong, and still say, I do enjoy the overall product, but I do recognize this. You can do both. Yep. You can ignore. You can get really mad at it if you want and just say, no, thanks. That's fine too. But people can do both, being like, well, I like the episode, but that was bothersome and wrong. You can do that. You can do that.
It's I mean, there's lots of media that were made in the before times that are like that. I think of two things off the top of my head. It's Doctor Who, obviously, because that's where I did first goes. It's the Talons of Wang Chiang, which has is one of the great stories.
Unnecessary makeup effects.
But then there is the lead character is a white guy made up to supposedly look Chinese. And then there's another one which is from much earlier, but 1961, I think. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Everyone remembers. Isn't the love story, and Audrey Hepburn, isn't she just lovely in the cafe scene and everything? And they never mention Mickey Rooney dressed up as a comedy Japanese person. That is astounding if you've never seen the film and you think this is where things were in 1961. And yet I don't think people sort of like, they don't immediately throw the entire movie on the bus. I think people sort of come to terms with, this was made in 1961. There are some great aspects to it, but there are some parts that have horribly dated. And I don't think you win any prizes for pointing out that, yes, it is horribly dated, nor do you get points for sort of like being as, overtly voicing your opinion that this is racist. We all know it's racist.
Yeah,
we all know.
You didn't discover anything.
No, that by today's standards, it is a thing that we wouldn't do, but it was back then, and it's it's interesting when some of these more timeless things like Doctor Who, like Breakfast at Tiffany's, like Blake Seven will say, when we watch them today and we just interchange them, probably when I'm done this, just to date this recording, I'm probably going to watch the first episode of Andor, Star Wars Andor, which is a brand new show. I watched both in the same day because I was allowed to. And there's a certain recency thing where you can sort of place them. They're all part of that same universe, that you just watch. They're just shows to watch. And you don't necessarily appreciate when each of them were made. And so I think as time goes on and older TV just sort of like becomes, all of it just old TV, I think the more problematic stuff of the past sort of melds in with the less problematic stuff of the more recent past.
Right. And with Doctor Who, they at least with a show that with that longevity, you get to watch them grow and learn and become better than what they used to be in terms of that kind of thing. Like you're like, oh, they have learned. They do get, they don't do that anymore. They will acknowledge that it was, a thing. Like, was it right back then? No. But did anybody stop people? The people in the power and the places didn't think that much, or nobody told them, was there to tell them no, and that's what we got, and they have to deal with that history. You just have to be like, ugh, that's what it is. But I surely hope no one is defending the Talons of Wing Chun, just being like, poor decision. Great script. There is a poor decision in the casting and makeup department, but you can't go back and change it. If you don't want to watch it, then don't. But this is I don't know. This is probably on the I don't know, like, oh, that's a shame, but not like ragingly.
It's not as egregious. The cost, and they didn't make him up at least.
Right. And then you pointed, I wasn't even thinking about the hostage stuff going on at that time too. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Well. Yeah. Drawing a straight line. A straight line.
Yeah. I was like, all right, now that, yep. Okay. The second half of the episode. Oh yeah. That was, but it is what they that's what they want the smuggling buddies of Jenna's past to look like.
Yep.
And that's who she's run with. But this is this episode. So this president we talked about here. They have to convince him that Blake's not an assassin, and that we're going to get you back. You're going to be part of helping this revolution before your planet gets taken over by the Federation or something like that. And he's like, "Hey, look, I have a gramophone on my random
with
stuff.
Old records." Yeah, I know. So. And they go back. Another fun thing to see, just like the car, it's just hilarious to see this gramophone in Blake 7 playing these old timey records. And then it's even more like I kind of like the way that Gareth Thomas plays this, because he's baffled by it all. Like he doesn't like what is this thing? With this gun, what is this? These strange discs. When he breaks a record to try to convince.
It's threatening his stuff is where he takes it seriously. It's threatening his stuff,
but I like the way he does it. Like he picks it up as if he doesn't quite know what he is about to break, but he knows that it matters to Sarkov. And there's a certain unfamiliarity with it, when he smashes it, that I think is just a subtle little performance that I kind of like. And then he picks up the tray of butterflies and stuff and nearly breaks that. And he doesn't. Sarkov does not last long to this style of interrogation. It's like, no, you broke one record, no more. As I was thinking that, about Doctor Who missing episodes, I'm thinking, oh man, did he just break the only copy of that record that's in existence? The missing episode hunters, the missing music archive hunters of the 24th and a half century, or wherever Blake 7 is set, is probably like, no, Raj Blake, you're supposed to be defending freedom, and freedom is having all the missing media returned to us. And he just wrecked that.
Yeah, and it's a British show, so it probably was something that got wiped there.
Yep.
They did. I mean, there was a great line in this too, where it said, "I'm ready to let you kill me, but I'm not ready to let you justify the act." That was a cool line. That was a good one. And yeah, so the threat and stuff, but in the Liberator, there's this ship floating around, and they're like, Gan's like, I'll go check it out, guys. And I'm like, man, they're making him just important, and then he is gone, and then he's like, I'm coming back, and then Zen's like, yo, that wasn't his voice.
Yeah, like I could have, like the way he says, everyone, it's perfectly fine to come across. Everyone should come across right now. It's perfectly safe for what we need. It just, and it goes on forever. Like in no way does it, like I think something was really up. And like Villa's like, well, works enough for me. Let's go. And it's only Zen that finally says, that was not Gan. And then, of course, Avon is suckered in, and he operates the teleport because he doesn't answer the phone, and then boom, the ship is taken over.
Right, and then when they get back there with the president and his, we'll find out later, daughter Tice, they're like, "Where's everybody?" And then they find Jenna, and she's like, "Everybody's dead." And then we get knocked out or whatever, and
she's turned traitor. Jenna has. And she keeps it up too. That's the amusing thing, is that even when like she's in the room in the sort of make-do prison that they're in, the brig, if you will, and they're all lying on the floor and they're all tied up, I think, with a little restraining necklaces on them. I don't remember if there was a guard in there with them, but like she keeps up the premise of her having turned even when they're in the same room, so she doesn't let on that, by the way, I'm doing a bit, I'm really not joining with them, but we'll do our best. I'm gonna do your best to get you out, and which is kind of good, because actually it keeps that thread going, because then we speak, we see Jenna and Tarvin have their discussion, and we realize, they're known to each other. This is they were previously doing dodgy deals together and everything. So maybe you sort of think, well, would she do it?
They leave it in a place where, not that you think Jenna's turned, but Jenna might just go for the side that's winning at the time.
Yeah, but I would expect that from Avon more than more than anyone. But I also wouldn't think Avon would be turned to to be a puppet of the Amazons, I guess we should call them.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe Avon would have a group of friends that would show up that he would do this. Like, I feel like he's forever a loner, and that anybody that's come across him in the past wouldn't be like, haha, buddy, at this point in the show with what he's given. Like, he just feels like he doesn't build long relationships. He leaves them at a point. And it's been strictly business. Cut and dry. But her, I'm just like, she playing like she's back with this guy out of nowhere, or has she been communicating with them all along? Like, there's some good questions left dangling when I was watching.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, she's also. I'm just thinking back to the very first scene that we see her in episode 1, when she's the one that tells Raj, "Oh, by the way, Villa has stolen your watch." She sells him out. She sells Villa out there too. So like, there is no side that she won't sort of, get on for her own good, even at the expense of people she knows.
And also, if you're not familiar with the show at all and you're going through it the first time, Jenna's turning on them here. It's a big thing. But we are also introducing Tice, this also fashionable blonde who's capable to talk some smack and with a gun and stuff like that. It's like, oh, are we going to be left with her and Jenna's going to be bye-bye? Like,
replacement Tice, who apparently has a shine for Blake, as we see in the very last scene of the episode.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That from nowhere, and then Jenna's like the forced Jenna-Blake thing, yeah.
Yeah. They're desperately trying to turn Blake into some sort of sex symbol, but it's
too many curls. Too many.
Yeah.
Tom Baker owns the curls at this era. Yeah. So sorry, Gareth, but
yeah,
because there's her, and then all of a sudden, at the end, she's like, "I'll see you later, Blake," and then Jenna's just like, "Bam, teleport later,
bye."
But yeah. So yeah, they have the classic. If you don't do what we want you to, your collar's gonna explode device put on them during this time, because not white Omar Sharif is gonna turn them into the Federation for money and keep the liberate. Like, what is that? What was the deal?
Everyone wants to. Everyone's a bounty hunter now. It's like last week the doctors at the station needed to do that, and now it's the Amazons want to do that, and they're getting notorious out in the galaxy, I guess, and people are just eager to cash them in. I like the little sparkly star effect every time that one of those little necklaces blew up, which is very intriguing. I so much so that I don't know how they did that in 1978 or 9.
Gotta love that. Yeah.
Yep.
TV and movie magic. I love that's the thing. That's the thing I never say with CG. I never say like movie magic. Like
no.
But when you do like optical effects and stuff, I'm always still like, ooh, these are cool.
Like I wouldn't know how to do that, Like these are things like people Google and like have to like create these really complicated filters to make their digital productions look like they've been shot on VHS.
Right.
It's like we used to just shoot them on VHS. It's so difficult to replicate what we would call archaic technology now. So whenever I see a video effect like that little sparkly star thing, I'm thinking, I have no idea how they did that because it predates computers. Not that it's easy to do on computers, but how it's done on it, that it's done on a computer. And I don't know how that effect was done. And it's probably simple back then, but I'm completely baffled.
Yeah, little things like little lasers and lightning bolts coming out. I'm like, ooh, these are so neat. Rather than, not that CG artists aren't overworked, underpaid, and working a lot.
Definitely
but not, for me, like the magic was always like, how did they do that? And then when I can answer that question with computers, it's different. It's different, and
it is.
There are CG things that blow me away today too because I don't know their CG. So they can do great stuff with that. But yeah, the collars, which Villa is the guy in charge of getting them off, and the funniest line or delivery in Blake 7 so far happened in this episode.
Okay.
Villa's struggling to get it off. He's working on Blake's to turn off the collar stuff. And he goes, I told you I couldn't do it. And Villa says, I believed you all along.
I also like when he's taking it off or trying his best, so I trust you, Villa. He says, but I'm standing right behind you. That's why I trust you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Otherwise, that was stupid. None of us showed conspicuous intelligence on this occasion.
Yeah, that was good too. I like that. A rare admission of stupidity from Avon during that shot there.
And then there's Jenna with Tarvin. Perhaps I made you better off. You're a pretty woman, Jenna, but not that pretty.
Nice. At least somebody's not not like the guy last week trying to be, so many beautiful women on this ship. Well, at least he doesn't go that far.
Right.
He doesn't go that far.
And then, what do you take pride in, Jenna? Survival. At the expense of your friends? I didn't know you cared, Avon. He didn't, and he was right. That was a dark line from Villa.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. And then when they were taking the collars, Blake get his collar off. Callie's like, great. I'll be next. Okay. And then they get in like a line for him to take it off. That was funny.
There you go. Poor Villa. Just like, okay, you're really testing me here, but gets it done. Gets it done. Good old reliable Villa. It's good to see him do something because for the, more often than not in the past few episodes, I feel like he's just been operating the teleport or not wanting to go anywhere. And so to have him actually do some proper safe cracking again, it's nice for that character to be back on board.
Right. And I just like the use of almost everyone here. I mean, this is a kind of a light Avon episode. He's tasked with like trying to get a door open, but they give Jenna like a stealth mission to like knock people out and try to free the crew while also looking like she's still bad.
And her telepathy comes back again. That's used a lot. They haven't touched on it a lot. But this is one of the big ones. And they even mentioned telepathy is pretty handy, isn't it? Yes, it is, when the writers remember that they could use it. Right. But it's not like Callie has sort of been on a lot of missions because she's sort of been stuck on the Liberator for a lot of this too. So yeah, I think it's nice for them to get on away missions too.
Right. I think Callie and Blake is a good A squad to go down to a planet. Because I'd say Avon going down there too, but you also might just need him on the ship because those plots and storylines can need his snark.
You feel it's kind of like sending Picard and Riker down in the same mission. No, you don't do that. You keep one of the two up on the top.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. So they got them going on. Gan gets to do something, and it involves him being off screen. Villa is put to use with his lock picking and stuff.
Yep.
So like everything kind of functions well in this episode. Just A plot, B plot come together. It makes I thought this was pretty. I don't know if I'll ever call this a favorite, but it really worked well in terms of the plot and scripting weaving around into one another. And I the only thing I was like, did it matter that Tice was the guy's daughter? Was that like a oh wow?
If only to sort of like at least it explains what she's doing there with them,
I guess so.
Yeah.
You know,
Otherwise, maybe it gets a little creepy. Yeah.
Gotcha. True. But yeah. No, I thought the Sarkov he kills Tarvin. He's the guy.
I like that. I kind of like that where he's like really like, oh no, I can't do it. But then for some reason once Tarvin's distracted and he doesn't have the power over Tice, he shoots him anyway, perhaps for thinking I'm angry at you for threatening her.
Yeah.
It's almost that gets him to shoot him as opposed to trying to protect. Anger takes over, kind of like it did with Julian Glover last week.
Right.
Everyone turns into a homicidal maniac, I guess.
We've got 5 minutes, folks. 5 and 1.5 is credits. So we got to get someone angry and get them going. But this good mixture of film, video, location, studio mixture. This just kind of packed it all.
Yep. Yeah, an agreeable episode, I dare say.
Yeah. It's a hard positive, I guess, on it. So, Stephen, please set our course again for Earth. But before we give it to the Federation, please share with people your information.
I am on Twitter at Legopolis, and I also do other Doctor Who podcasts, occasionally mentioning Blake 7, Radio Free Scarro, Lazy Doctor Who, and The Memory Cheats.
All right. Hashtag once Tice, 3 times a lady. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brendan4KUHD. Written work on WhySoBlue.com. There's more from The Brendan Peters Show whenever you're listening. But from old space.
If it takes all my life, I will destroy you, Blake. I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Thank you for listening. The Brendan Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.